So, good afternoon. Thank you for joining us today. We're in the Paris Art History in Paris 2026 information session for summer abroad. So, we're excited to share some details with you about the program next summer. Before we start, I just want to let you know that there is a Q&A button at the bottom of the Zoom screen, so you can feel free to use it throughout the session. Ask any questions. My colleague is with us who will answer your questions, and we'll also have a time for Q&A at the end. This session is also being recorded and will be added to the website, so you can always go back to the website to review any of the information. Before we begin, we wish to acknowledge the land on which the University of Toronto operates. For thousands of years, it has been the traditional land of the Huron-Wendat, the Seneca, and the Mississaugas of the Credit. Today, this meeting place is still the home to many Indigenous people from across Turtle Island, and we're grateful to have the opportunity to work and learn on this land. So I'm going to introduce the team for today's session, and then we'll go into the agenda and we'll get going. So my name is Aisha Amin. I am the program coordinator at Summer Abroad, working on the Paris program. And I'm really delighted to have all these faces that you see on the screen with you. We've got Christy Anderson, Bjorn Ewald, and Christina Katsiyanopoulos, who's who are professors, as well as two student alum from the 2025 program. So today we'll go over an overview of what the Summer Abroad program is, then we'll get straight into the program details, first for FAH 393YO, followed by the student experience of the program from last year, then into FAH 391YO, followed by the student experience for that. Then I'll give you more details on how to apply, talk about some of the costs and financial assistance available, followed by EDIA resources and support. And then, of course, we'll have the Q&A at the end. So what is Summer Abroad? Summer Abroad is celebrating its 54th anniversary in 2026. So by participating in the Summer Abroad program, students get to earn a full year arts and science credit. So it's not a transfer credit. You are taking a U of T course while studying abroad for between 3 to 6 weeks. We have over 20 destinations across the world, and courses are taught by U of T faculty and international experts. So these courses fulfill program, breadth, and/or distribution requirements. Classes are pretty small. They average 20 to 30 students. In fact, the art history courses are even smaller than that. And we do also ensure that students are fully supported. We have a dedicated on-site staff that's available at your destination for support. There's also a pre-departure orientation, as well as safety abroad requirements that students complete prior to departure. So we make sure that everyone's well prepared for the experience. So what's really unique about the Summer Abroad program is that the destination truly becomes a living textbook. So you get a real unique experience that combines your academics, travel, and of course, a chance to meet friends, improve your communication skills, and most importantly, you're experiencing a new culture. So without further ado, I'm going to quickly introduce our two art history courses that are being offered in Paris in 2026. This will be the third year the courses are being offered in Paris, and there is generous funding available for students who are admitted into the programs. And we're gonna hear from both our professors, as I said first. So Christy, I'd love to pass it on to you to talk about your course, FAH 393, Studies Abroad in Renaissance and Baroque Art and Architecture.
Okay, thank you. Oops. Hold on here. Let me make that go away. Thank you, Aisha. Hold on just a second. Let me just do share my screen. Get it all set up and make sure. Okay, can everybody see that? Are you seeing? Okay. Okay, so thank you so much. Thank you, Aisha, and thank you before she even goes, Lily, who's a student from last year. So it's really great to be here again. This is going to be my third, as well as with Professor Evald and Katsugianopoulou. This is our third year of doing these special courses through art history, and I teach in the art history department at St. George. I'm also, some of you may know me because I also teach, and I'm a member of the faculty at the Daniels as well. And my field, my area of expertise is architecture. And this course is very architecture heavy, but it's certainly not only architecture. And I'll tell you a little bit about it. And the field in terms of the period that we're going to look at in France is the Renaissance or early modern. So from about 1500 to about 1650 is the period that we look at. And I'm going to show you a bunch of pictures about the program. And this is, I mean, some of the things the other instructors will say as well. So one of the unique things about this course is that we spend well, except for the very first day when we have a kind of welcome and orientation, every one of the days of the class is spent on site. So we are either at a building, at a museum, doing a walking tour of Paris. And that's really wonderful because there's nothing better than teaching, in front of the very things itself. So in this case, you're actually looking at two pictures from the first year when we were in the Loire Valley, which is just south, about 2 hours south of Paris. And this course, as I said, covers the the French Renaissance, which if you've taken a Renaissance course, we normally think about the Renaissance as something which kind of happened in Italy, in Florence, in Rome. But what we're going to look at is how this period was really interpreted and explored by a small number of French kings and especially queens, one of the main ones being King Francis I, whom you see here in a very famous portrait of him. And then one of the sculptures that he commissioned on the right. And these rulers, these court patrons were extremely interesting, both because of their own ambitions, but also because of the artists that they brought to work for them. And one of the things that I think is very fun about this course is that while painting is important in this period, it really was a period where all of the other arts are flourishing. So we're going to spend lots of time looking at architecture, like the great chateau at Fontainebleau, just outside of Paris. And here you can see a group of students being, with one student giving a presentation and other students taking notes in the very famous long gallery at Fontainebleau. And so it's really a chance to not only look at paintings, which we will, but architecture, textiles, silver, ceramics, what am I missing? Armor. And as I said, there was a group of really important patrons, such as Francis I, but interestingly, it was also their wives and mistresses who were very important patrons. So, for instance, we'll look at the work commissioned by Diane de Poitiers, who was the mistress of Francis I's son, Henri II. And we'll look at the sculptures of her in the Louvre. We will probably go to her chateau, which you're seeing one part of on the right. And I think by looking at such a small number of patrons and artists, it really gives students a chance to kind of dig in deeply to the work. One of the great things about studying the Renaissance in Paris is the number of specialized museums and collections. For instance, the National Museum of the Renaissance is just in the suburbs of Paris at a chateau called Écouen, and it's you're seeing on the right a view up into the chapel ceiling. And on the left, a group of students looking at the incredible stained glass collections there. And we will also have the opportunity to go to see the royal tombs at Saint Denis, which is the cathedral just in the suburbs outside of Paris. And here, in fact, is a student. The student lecturing is a student who graduated from U of T a few years ago, I think 3 years ago now, Ayako Patton, who came to lecture. She's a U of T alum and was in France because she's a Rhodes Scholar working on this period. So this is also one of the great things about these courses, again, both mine and Professor Ewald and Katsuginopoulos' course, is that we bring in not only will you have lectures by me and classes taught by me, but also classes taught by visiting French scholars, either curators at the museum. I mean, for instance, here is an example on the right at the Louvre when we had a lecture by a wonderful young French scholar, the one holding the papers, who is talking about the early Renaissance collections. Will also, and in fact, there is Lily in the flesh right there, who is a student from last year at the Cluny Museum, which is one of the great museums in Paris, the sort of medieval and late medieval museum. So I ask that all students do one short presentation during their class time. So you get to pick one museum or collection to give a talk at. And one of the lovely things that we do, and also the other class does, is we go into the Louvre on the day that it's closed to the public. So we basically have the museum to ourselves. And when we're there, the past few years, we've had a wonderful lecture by a young furniture expert and furniture maker about the French Renaissance furniture. And you can see, we even get to do things like open things up, open up chests of drawers, and he explains how they're made and how the woods are used and so on. So there's sort of special visits to many things that we have a chance to do, like go into the Louvre on a closed day. And we also, again, this will happen for both classes. We actually get you a membership to the Louvre, so you can go in without the lines anytime you want, like on your own time. And students, we did this for the first time last year, and I think students really loved it because you don't have to feel either. You don't have to wait in the lines, and you can kind of just pop in for an hour to go see something and then, on your free time. So that's kind of a lovely experience. In addition to visits to museums, in my class, we do, I think we did 2 days last year, where we do kind of walking tours of specific things related to the course. And so here are two views of one of those walking days where we were at this wonderful museum fountain on the left, the Fountain of the Innocents, and then in one of the great late medieval, early Renaissance churches on the right. So there's a lot of kind of understanding how the city of Paris grew during this period, because it's the period when the French monarchy made Paris the capital, whereas before it was in a different place, which we also happened to visit. So for 1 week, the second week of the course, we get on a bus and we go south about 2 hours or so to what is called the Loire Valley, which is one of the great rivers that runs through France. And all along this valley was a very important place where the French royalty and aristocracy built extraordinary residences, basically castles, which are called in French chateaux. And so we stay in the town of Blois, and this is the chateau at Blois. And Blois is a really lovely town, not only because of the fantastic chateau, and we visit the chateau, but also because of the other, it's very much a Renaissance city, late medieval Renaissance city. So just even the city itself is interesting in terms of the old buildings, and we do walks kind of around the city. We visit other extraordinary chateaux, such as the one at Chambord, which was built by Francis I. It's an enormous, basically hunting lodge. And here's the group from last year posed out in front, and the views that you get from being up on top of the roof. there. And so for 4 days, we go through basically 4 different chateaux. Sometimes we can fit in an extra one, but 4 or 5 chateaux in the Loire Valley, and we're transported around by bus. And we get in, we can really see, because not only are these extraordinary buildings, but they have extraordinary decorations in them, furniture, paintings, and so on. So we get a chance to see those. And just to show you one more of the sort of picture postcard one, Issy-le-Rideau, and go up into, for instance, talk about how the roof structure was built and so on. So it's really a kind of wonderful part of the trip, because we get 1 week outside of Paris, which is always nice break in the countryside, and it's a particularly beautiful time of the year, but also to see kind of other and different kinds of structures. And while classes meet basically for 3 hours a day, some days a little more, some days a little less, but around 3 hours a day. Usually we have the morning. So that leaves you lots of time in the afternoon and the evenings to go do things that you want to do the work for the next day of class, because it is quite a large amount of work to get, it's a whole year course in 4 weeks. We do have things like go out to group lunches together. So it's really, I have to say, it's the most, in however many years I've been teaching, many, many years, it's really about the most fun I've ever had teaching. The groups for the past 2 years have been lovely. Students, everybody gets along great. And while I think it's a lot of work for everybody, it's really the kind of best way to do art history. And I just want to say a little bit about what the assignment is. Basically, there is one assignment for the whole course, which has 4 parts to it, which is that I ask you to keep a notebook or a sketchbook. And each week I give you a kind of question to think about. And this is, I'm just showing you I just cut and pasted out of Quercus from last year. So this gives you an example of what that is, which is that I ask you to pick a topic. Here I give you 2 different topics, and I ask you for the whole week to, in your readings and in your visits, to think about that topic and to take notes, to kind of reflect on it, to think about how the readings maybe helped you reflect on that question or idea. And students, and then at the end of the week, I ask you to pick out a small number of what you decide to be your best pages from the notebook. And I just wanted to show you 2 different notebooks from, I think one's from 2 years ago, one's from last year. And I always ask students to do sketches, not because it's about your drawing ability, but just as to give you a chance to really look and focus closely on what it is that we're seeing. And the notebooks, I mean, I love a messy notebook like the one on the right, where the student has put in post-it notes and made additions, really shows me that you're kind of thinking, you're going back and reflecting on what maybe you saw in the morning, based on what you read in the afternoon. So the idea is not to have a sort of beautiful, perfect notebook, but to show me how you're kind of working and thinking through thoughts. And you work on this all week. And then I ask you to hand it in by, I think I said like 5 p.m. on a Friday, so that you have your weekend free. And then I grade them over the weekend or by early in the week, and you get the comments back for the next week. But you basically take photographs of your notebook, so you still have your notebook with you for the next week's work. And that's what the work is for the whole class. And so it's basically, I mean, there's a little bit of difference, but it's about 25% per week. And then every student has to give one very short little presentation on one thing that they sign up for. And that's all the work for the class. And it's really basically pretty fun, is all I can say. So let me unshare here. Oops. Now I have to figure out how to unshare. Wait a moment. Well, I don't know, why am I not? Oh, there we go. Stop share. Okay, there we go. Okay, good. And then I think Lily is is Lily going to go right away?
Yeah.
Lily, if you don't mind, to say a little bit. And you can say, if you hated the class, you can say you hated the class.
No, I wouldn't be here if I didn't.
Well, if you can say that if you like, if you want.
No. Okay. You covered a lot there. I wasn't really sure what to include here, so this is just like my what I experienced abroad. Aisha, do you have the slides? Okay, cool. Yeah, so it's mostly just it's just pictures. Um, as Professor Anderson said, we did a lot around Paris. Only the first day we sat in a classroom for like I think just an hour, and that was about it. So there's the class of the Fountain of the Innocents, but we really went all over, and this doesn't do justice to all of that, but I wanted the pictures to not be super tiny. For the presentations, I chose Saint-Denis, which was scary because it was the same day as the Rhodes Scholar that we had, but I survived it with a cold, so that was good. Um, it was really just kind of places that I wouldn't have thought to go to had I had just gone to Paris on my own. And then, plus, as Professor mentioned, we had all these visiting scholars that we got to learn from. So, just a completely unique experience. I really enjoyed. On the last day, we went to the Decorative Arts Museum. So, I have this little skeleton guy from there. It was like probably like this big. It was tiny. Crazy detail there. We can go to the next slide, I think. Yeah. I wanted to share an example of my journal because I had classmates who were really good artists. I'm not really a good artist, but I tried to kind of cover what I could. So for every week, I would start off with kind of the idea that we were assigned on Quirkus, and then I would just kind of throw together ideas from there with the readings and what we saw. And I would go in, like, I had like a whole color system where I would go in normally and then I'd look back later and add things in a different color and then use that to structure a few pages, kind of summing up. Because all of my notes, mostly that I took a lot of notes in class around Paris and they were kind of illegible. So I kind of had to rewrite a lot of stuff. But if you write well, that's not really a worry. It is also just kind of trying to fit everything in. Um, but what was cool for me with these assignments is a lot of my own sort of research interest is in different like ideologies of nation and like building a national identity through art. And so what was really cool in this class is we got to see like really, really early foundations of that all the way back to like Francis the First and the way that they kind of were trying to be on the same level as Italy, but not recreate Italy and France kind of thing. And so I got to pull different ideas from various classes, but then you learn so much in Paris, so it's just like such a dense amalgamation of ideas going on in the notebook. Um, okay, I think that's about it for the notebook. Yeah, so I have some pictures from the chateau visits. That was definitely a highlight amongst me and my classmates. What was really exciting is at Azé Le Rideau, I met a cat and he kind of showed me around and it was a great time. Like it's just such a different world over there. But so there's me with the cat at the chateau. But it was a really dense week. I think we were all really tired when we got back to Paris, but it was definitely worth it because we just really went all over the place. Um, and those pictures that Christy had of Blois, there's it was so pretty there. I love it there. So I have one of my own as well. Um, yep, okay. And then the last thing I wanted to mention was going into the Louvre on a Tuesday. You get this really cool badge that lets you go in, and it's like basically empty. And then I have some photos. There's Francois, who was the cabinet and like furniture expert, and a curator from the Louvre, and they were showing us the different joints, like the dovetail joint in the drawer of a piece that's actually on display in the galleries. So something you would never get to see otherwise. Um, yeah, I think I had about 5 minutes, so I tried to rush through it. That's about it. Um, yeah.
Lily, can I ask you to say quickly,
Yes.
like, what did you guys do? I mean, because you had, I mean, you certainly have homework stuff you have to
Mhm.
do, but what did you, I mean, some of the fun things that maybe you did that weren't class related, but
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't have to be academic, but I mean, just
Yeah.
the
I
fun
went
stuff
to a
that you
lot
did.
of
not Renaissance art like galleries and different exhibitions. You recommended there was an Artemisia show. A
Mhm.
couple of us went to that, and that was fantastic. So it was a lot of art, not necessarily within the realm of the class, but it was still like, like this is like an art capital of the world. And then, I don't know, some fun things is a bunch of us went to a jazz club one night. That was fun. Um, there's that we would go and like picnic by the Seine, very silly, but we had to do it once.
You have to do
Um,
it. You have to do it.
we have to do it. I spent a lot of time right by the residence at Cite University. There's this huge park, so I would often like when we had an assignment due, there's a bakery right by the park, so I'd get a sandwich and I'd take my notebook and I would just work in the park for a couple hours because it's just like really beautiful out in May. So I feel like generally we had about like 3 hours of free time a day because I feel like it was like 3 hours of class, 3 hours of reading, and like 3 hours of fun. So usually we would do the 3 hours of fun while we were already out in the city, and then
Mm.
we would go back to campus and do the reading and then go to bed.
Yeah, and I mean, that's what I told you guys was that if you
Yes,
think of the
it was
day
a
in
helpful
three parts,
structure.
if you think of the day in three parts, you've probably got 3 hours of homework, of reading, and then one chunk of the day to go do something fun. I mean, obviously more on the weekends, and then one chunk of the day in class. So,
Yeah.
anyways, thank you.
Thank you, both to Professor Anderson and to Lily. I really appreciate it. We're going to now move on to the other class that is being offered, and I will now pass it on to Bjorn and Christina.
Um, okay, so let me share my screen here. Okay. Beginning. Like Professor Anderson already mentioned, you will not have any traditional class time in our course. So the idea is to engage with artworks, with monuments, with the whole city of Paris and the town of Nîmes up close. So it's going to be completely experiential. I will not linger too much on this slide. You can look at it later. Our dates are a little bit different than that of Professor Anderson's course. We will start May 9 and we'll spend 2 weeks in Paris. And then for the last 12 days of the course, we will go to Nîmes in the south of France. And why we will go to Nîmes also, Professor Eva will explain it to you, because probably outside of Italy, this is where the best Roman ruins are located. May be hard to believe, but this is the case. I will go back to the assignments later, but probably also most of you know that outside Italy and Greece, and probably with the exception of the British Museum, Paris offers the best collections of ancient art. We have both Greek and Roman. So we will visit the Louvre, hopefully also during Tuesdays, but we cannot promise that, right, Bjorn? Not
Yeah,
yet.
I think it's possible. I can talk a little bit about that later.
Yeah, so we will visit the Louvre because, as probably most of you know, some of the greatest masterpieces of ancient Greek and Roman art are located there, from the Aphrodite of Milos to the Nike of Samothrace, which in our first year we were allowed to look at really from very close by, since the museum was closed. But the Louvre is not only the great sculptures that every tourist wants to take a picture of. It has an incredible wealth of collections both ceramics, vases, terracottas, and we are going to look at all this ancient artifacts. Like with Professor Anderson's class, we are going to get memberships so we can try to avoid the crowds whenever possible. This is an image from 2 years ago when one of the main curators for Greek vases, Dr. Coulier, gave us a great guided tour of the vases collection. And as with Professor Anderson's course, we will line up French colleagues that will give tours on a specific topic and body of material. Another museum that we really love, because it's also very quiet and calm in there, and we can spend lots of time. Most tourists do not know it. It's the Museum of the Bibliothèque Nationale, Le Cabinet de Médailles, and we will also spend at least 2 visits there looking at their collection. They have probably one of the most important Roman treasures in silver, but they have an incredible collection of ancient gems. So again, this will be a must. Of course, we also look at neoclassical Paris. For most students have a vague idea, of course, that especially in the time of Napoleon, the imperial ideology that he introduced was very heavily based on ancient art. So we are going to look monuments like the column at the Place Vendôme, the Church of the Madeleine. This is last year's class, the Pantheon, and the Arc de Triomphe. And we are going to make connections between ancient art and how it was used by not only Napoleon, but also the French monarchs or the Bourbons in the early 19th century in order to establish imperial and French nationalist ideology. So we will see that in Paris, the past is always present. And then, as I've mentioned, in the second half of the course, we're going to travel to Nîmes and stay there. We will use this little town as our base. And then we will have buses that will take us to other sites in the south of France, where the Roman province of Gallia Narbonensis was located. Maybe some of you know that Nîmes has one of the most best preserved Roman buildings in the world, probably beside the Pantheon in Rome, La Maison Carrée, as you see here. It really gleams because it was also restored recently. An amphitheater. The town in itself is very pleasant to live. Most of our students enjoyed the fact that after the hustle and bustle of Paris, Nîmes was much more laid out. We'll see what Carolina has to say too about this. And then from Nîmes, we will go to Arles. This is last year's class, looking at the colossal statue of Augustus in the Museum of Arles. We're going to go to Orange, which has one of the largest and well-preserved Roman theaters, as well as a triumphal arch. And we will even go and look at the aqueduct of Pont-du-Gard and climb on top of the aqueduct. Usually we have a private guide that allows us access to this incredible Roman structure. I didn't include too many slides to go back to the assignments and give you an idea of what we are expecting from you. Like with the other class, journaling is very important. So you have to be, let's say, very active participants, take notes the whole time as much as possible. And we will then ask you to submit the best parts of your journal, both the rough draft, so the notes with sketches, and then a written up version. Another thing that we do, and it is very important in the sense that this is a hands-on course, is that we usually split up the students in group. They choose an artwork, an artifact, and they discuss it among themselves, and then they present it to the whole of the class. So it's the idea of a flipped classroom, but it's being done in front of the whole class. And you should not be concerned about not knowing much about the specific artifact. It's really about how you can engage with it, how you hone your observation skills. Most of you will have a phone with you, so you can look up things, but the important thing is to ask questions. The rest of the assignments are more traditional, so there will be short research papers on topics that are central to the course, so ancient art, where you can pick your own focus, your own, let's say, particular interest. It can be, for example, ancient Greek vases, or it can be sexuality in Roman sculpture, or whatever. And then there will be also a short paper on neoclassicism, so in Paris, and then a paper on Roman Gaul. There are several aspects that you can write about. We will give you a list. Doesn't make sense to go too much into detail here. And if you're wondering how are you going to do this, we have already compiled several folders with readings, so at least 200, I think, at least 150 to 200 articles that you will be able to read and base your research on. And every day before every visit, we will give you also a very short reading or a video to watch in order to be prepared about the particular visit. That's it. Bjorn, would you like to add something additional?
I can sort of make it very short, because you've really covered all of the bases. So it's a course, as Professor Katsianopoulos said, that is taught entirely on site through visits to museums and archaeological sites. France is ideal for that, for studying all aspects of ancient art and architecture, for a variety of reasons. One is that a lot of Greek and Roman art that you see in museums such as the Louvre came there in complicated ways that we will, of course, also try to shed some light on through the purchase of old Roman connections and so on and so forth. And then on the other hand, of course, because the south of France, where we will see original Roman works of art and architecture, used to be a Roman province. So it so happens that some of the finest examples of ancient architecture, for example, are found in France. So 2 of the 3 best preserved ancient temples are in fact not in Italy or in Greece, but they are in France. One of them being the Maison Carrée. So France is really ideally suited to study ancient art and architecture in all of its aspects, including the very interesting reception. I mean, you have like almost replicas of ancient monuments, such as the Column of Trajan in Paris, the Vendôme column. To give you just one example, I think Christina showed it sort of earlier on the slides. So it's very well suited for that. And we will start with, the course is pretty much split through the middle. It's not a week, I think, in the south, as it said on the presentation, but it's almost 2 weeks, except for one weekend that we will stay in Paris. But otherwise, the course is pretty much split through the middle. So first half will be in Paris. It will include walking tours outdoors, of course, but also a lot of time in the museums. We hope to gain exclusive access to the Louvre again. The Louvre is a work in progress, obviously. As you know, there are all kinds of things happening. Some
Thefts.
well, let's that way. It's been sort of notorious for a couple of things, but they're also like moving collections around because they want to entirely reorganize the sort of access to the Louvre, so they're opening new entrances and so on and so forth. And they're moving galleries around, and that means that sometimes parts of the ancient galleries are closed for work, and we cannot see them, but we will see what can be done. And we will, in any case, visit, of course, all of the highlights of the Louvre and hope to get in again during closing times. So the first half will be in Paris, and then, of course, the second half will be in the south of France, which, and I think Carolina will speak to that as well, has a more sort of relaxed pace, a slightly different feel. It's warm there. You know, it's going to be summer there. You might be able to go swimming in the Gardon River under the Pont du Gard, for example. Some people also went to the nearby Mediterranean and spent the weekend there. So great weather, great food, kind of, you know, different pace of life, and beautiful town. So we're going to stay in Nîmes, which is a lovely, very sort of boutique town with lots of ancient monuments. The best preserved ancient temple is there, the Maison Carrée, which you see on the top left, and then, of course, the amphitheater, which is also one of the best preserved from the Roman world. And it's really a lovely town. But we will also have near daily field trips to places such as Arles and Orange, Avignon, but also smaller archaeological sites such as Glanum and Vaison-la-Romaine. So you're going to see a lot in a very short time down there. And as Professor Anderson said, it's all taught on site and in front of the monuments. And it's really a kind of joint exploration of ancient art in which you will be actively involved, of course. So that was a lot of fun. I can actually fully endorse what Professor Anderson said. I think it's the most, and I think I can speak for Professor Katsianopoulou as well, I think it's the most fun that we've had teaching classes like these past 2 years, the ones in France. And we look forward, of course, to teaching it again next year and the year after. What this is about is really, of course, like to develop a form of visual literacy, really. In other words, to enable you to ask productive and meaningful questions in front of objects. Like usually when we do art history, we approach the objects we deal with prefabricated notions and theories and thesis. And here we do it the other way around. You know, we look at the objects first and see which kind of questions they raise. And then we will try to kind of inscribe that into a broader framework, also theoretical framework. So it's a slightly different approach. It's an approach that, of course, since we were both trained in Europe, and are pretty much at home there, were exposed to, of course, during our studies. And it's really quite interesting to take objects and works of art and architecture as a starting point and then develop questions from there, critical questions from there. And that was absolutely wonderful, great experience, also because we learned to see things through the students' eyes. So there are often things that the students picked for discussion that we might not have otherwise engaged with in the same way. So it has really been a great all-around experience. And of course, you see a lot more on the side. You know, you see how it is to live in, you know, walkable cities that are built on a human scale. It's a very different sort of way of life, obviously, down there. So it should be a great overall experience. I think I'll leave it with that, although there would be more to say. And I think we pass it on to Carolina. Is that okay? Is that correct?
Yes, for sure. Yes, thank you. Well, hello everyone. Very nice to meet you all. I'm Carolina, and I was a student in this past summer for the FAH 391. And every time I see the images again, I'm like, oh, I wish I could go back. Um, so I'll tell you a little bit more about my, I would say, personal experience and more like student life, just being there for the whole month. So obviously, as mentioned, the course is divided into Paris and the south of France, and just some highlights from Paris. So I put up some images of me in the Musée du Louvre, and that image over there shows the like after class, after having our class, having the discussions and so on, we were able to just like roam around the museum and just like explore by ourselves. So I was able, and me and my class, we were able to see the jewels that were stolen actually. So fun fact, we got to see it before they're gone, unfortunately. Another thing is that we stayed at the student residence in Paris. So it was overall like, just like an immersive experience. I put a photo over there, like I would go for a run, and it was so nice because you would see just like students laying on the ground, like just like working. And I'm sure like maybe Lily and I were also doing the same thing, riding in the park and working because it's very nice. So yeah, like I got to experience that aspect of student life in Paris. And then obviously outside of classes, I would still try to visit as much as I could. Like every single day I would end up in my bed just like dead from so much exploring. And so apart from like, the museums that we went with our class, which obviously were very interesting, I went by myself to discover other museums with more modern art. So like I would go to the Musée d'Orsay, which you can see like, so many other artworks. I was like perfect for an art student. And it was also very fun that me and my class, we were able to create like good friendships, and we would go out to dinner, we would go and explore, get to eat crepes and get the macarons and just like walk around the city. It's just like it's a full immersive experience that it was great. I wish yeah, so that's for Paris. So that's kind of like outside of the classroom experience that I got to do. And then for the south of France, like as mentioned, like we were able to see just like see in person the ancient ruins of Roman architecture and like the objects and so on. It just really puts into perspective what you usually learn in class, which is, lecture slides. And just seeing it in person is a completely different experience. So yeah, we got to see the museums in Musée de la Romanité, which they had great examples of models and just artifacts and so much to learn. And then we also got like in-person tours from local guides, which was great. And then also, as mentioned, we went to Pont du Gard, which in our class was able to go for a swim in the river. I guess like everyone was like, oh, can we stay a little longer? But the bus was like ready to leave, and we were like, okay, no, like literally 5 minutes before the bus left, we were just like packing our stuff and ready to go. But obviously, like the background was like an ancient aqueduct, which was like, where else are you gonna do this, right? And yeah, also like another highlight is like I took a solo trip to Nice. So I took a train in the weekend. Obviously, I was like working in my assignments during the weekdays, and then for the weekend, I was like, okay, I'll just do this by myself, and I went to Nice, so that was fun. And yeah, it was overall a great experience because, as you can see, even from the images, it's a very different experience from Paris because Paris is like such a busy uh, city, right? Like it's very touristy and like it's has its own magic in its sense. But just after 2 weeks, it was like a great, I would say, just not break, but it was like a great sort of change of scenery. And like it was like even just walking through the town of Nîmes, like you would see like this ancient like the Maison Carrée was just like almost empty. Like we were able to just like sit down in the steps, have no one. And also like the people around were also very friendly. We would have like people like waving at us. It was overall a great experience. And yeah, I guess that's it for me. But yeah, if you have the opportunity, I would say do it.
Thank you. Thank you again to Professor Katsianapoulou and Professor Ewald, as well as our student speaker, Christina, for sharing about this course. So now we'll get into a little bit more details about applying and the accommodations, getting there, the logistics. So it was brought up already that the accommodations will be in single rooms in the dorms at the Cité Internationale Universitaire de Paris. So it's the residence. Single rooms is very exciting because that's usually not the case in dorms. When you're on the overnight field trips, though, it is double rooms in hotels. So in Blois and in Nîmes, you would be sharing a room. But for the time in Paris, you'll have your single room. Um, there will be additional information that's sent to you about the accommodations once you're admitted into the program. But the accommodation availability is from the Saturday before classes begin for both programs until the Saturday after. So for FAH 391YO, it's May 9th to May 25th. And then after the trip to to Nîmes, you'll come back June 5th to June 6th. You'll have the last day before you leave. And then similarly for FAH 393YO, the residence is available from May 16th to May 25th when you head out, and then when you get back from Blois on May 28th to June 13th. So once you're admitted into the program, you'll get instructions on how to book your flight. So there's no group flight. You do book your own flight to Paris. So for FAH 391, we ask that you arrive, like I said in the last slide, Saturday, May 9th, and you'll be starting class the Monday. And then for FAH 393, we ask that you arrive Saturday, May 16th, and class will start the following Monday. So usually if you're leaving from Toronto, you'd be leaving on the Friday evening beforehand. So we will send a recommended flight because that flight gets to Paris the day that you need to arrive. However, you are free to book whatever flight you want as long as you get there when you need to arrive. You will be responsible for getting to the residence in Paris from the airport on your own. We will provide you with instructions on how to do that once you're admitted as well. So to be eligible for the program, the general summer abroad eligibility requirements are that you have to have a CGPA of at least 1.75, and you have to have completed at least one course by the time of application, so by December 2025. Students who are registered in professional faculties or in graduate programs are still eligible to apply to summer abroad, but they might need to have permission to take the course as an elective through their faculty. We also welcome visiting students from other universities across North America, but they would need to arrange for a letter of permission. So in terms of applying to the summer abroad program, applications open on Friday, December 5th at 10 a.m. So you would navigate to the website, summerabroad.utoronto.ca, and hit the Apply tab at the top. There is a $210 non-refundable application fee. This year, a new option is you can actually select a second choice location in your application. So it gives you the option once you do your application for the first program, it asks if you want to also apply to a second location if you are not selected for your first choice. You can opt in, you can opt out. If you choose to do that, you don't have to pay an additional fee for the application. You'll only be assessed for the second one if you are not selected for the first one. Once you submit your payment in the application, please remember to press submit. There is a separate submit button after the payment that you need to submit in order to complete that part of the application. Admission is not based on a first come, first serve basis. We do assess your application in full. So for the art history courses, there is a requirement that you have the prerequisite of at least 1.0 credits in art history. So that is one requirement for this program. Then you have your academic record over the last year that's going to be assessed, as well as the relevance of the course that you're applying to your program of study. And then there's a personal statement. So it asks about why you are choosing this particular course or how it aligns with your academic or personal goals. So that's looked at as well. And then once you submit the written portion, you'll be sent a link to answer an interview question on video. And that will be something you record. There's not another person on the other side. And you'll just record yourself responding to the question. And all of that is assessed as part of the application. We ask that you not use AI in your application. Unauthorized aid is not permittable, and it could lead to disqualification. The only aid that would be approved is if there's an accessibility request. So these are some important dates to take note of. So like I said, the online applications open this Friday, December 5th at 10 a.m. There are earlier deadlines for certain summer abroad programs, including Paris. So to apply for the Paris program, you must submit everything as part of your application before January 14th, 2026 at 4 p.m. Our Paris, Japan, South Africa, England, and Science Abroad programs all have an early deadline. All the other programs, the deadline is February 4th. So now we'll get into costs and finances. So the program fees for Paris, for the art history program in Paris, have been updated. So for domestic students for FAH 391, it's the program fees to summer abroad are 9,185, and for international students, it's 10,340. And for FAH 393, domestic students, it's 9,045, and for international students, it's 10,200. One thing to note is these are the program fees and do not include U of T incidental fees. And you'll also have to pay for your own flight, any meals, public transit, insurance, any visas that you may require, as well as spending money. So we have estimated what to budget for those as well, and that's available on the program website under costs. In terms of financial aid and awards, this program is very unique because there is a France Art History DRG undergraduate scholarship that's available. So that offers $8,000 to eligible undergraduate students that are admitted into the program. So you do have to meet the prerequisites of 1.0 credit in art history and must have completed your second year or above to be eligible. There are other awards, bursaries, and funding that is available as well. So there's financial need-based travel scholarship or travel award through the Center for International Experience. It's called the IE Plus Award. It's based solely on financial need, and that's for both domestic and international students. You can check your registrar's office as well, because there could be some awards or bursaries that are available for you that you can apply to. And finally, because these courses are for credit, they are eligible for OSAP. So if you are able to receive OSAP or other government funding for your studies, then this would also be eligible. So we recommend to start budgeting now. Deposits are due they're $1,000 and they're due 1 week after you get your admissions notification. And that's to be able to secure your spot. Final payments are due around early March. The exact date will be sent to you with your admissions notification. We also have an online information session specifically dedicated to how to finance your summer abroad experience. So it'll deep dive into all the different ways that you can pay for your summer abroad experience and what I've just mentioned, but a little bit more detail. So that's going to be held also online on Zoom. Thursday, January 8th, 2026 at 2 p.m. You can use the QR code that's on your screen right now to register, or feel free to just navigate to the Summer Abroad website, go to the Events tab, and find it there, and that'll also take you to the registration page. So students are responsible for arranging their own visa if they do need one. So for France, Canadian citizens don't require a visa for stays up to 90 days, but they have to have a passport that's valid for at least 3 months after the planned departure date. So that would be after either early June or mid-June, depending on the course that you're in. There is a new entry-exit system in the Schengen area. So you would be registered into the EES, it's called, once you enter France. And the EU is also launching something called a European Travel Information and Authorization System. The exact date has not been started, it has not been confirmed, but it is expected to be launched around May. So you may enter around when that's being launched. So just something to prepare and be aware of. So once that's in place, Canadians would need to obtain that travel authorization through ETIAS before entering the area, and that's for stays up to 90 days in a 180-day period. For international students, you have to check with the embassy or consulate for requirements based on your nationality. We do recommend applying in Toronto if that's possible. Summer Abroad does provide supporting documentation, so you can always request for the documents so you can apply for your visa. Again, this can take a while, so we do recommend starting early for this application. We also recommend reviewing the terms and conditions of any insurance, including considering cancellation insurance for your flight, just in case with visas, because you never know until you get it. So it's always a good idea for extra protection. Summer Abroad is also committed to supporting students in their study abroad experience, all students. And so we've launched a webpage that's based on equity, diversity, inclusion, and accessibility resources. So this provides different targeted resources for students to help them inform their choice. And the targeted resources are for various student communities, including students with disabilities, first-generation students, Indigenous students, racialized students, women travelers, non-traditional students, and other student communities. So if you go to our website under the EDI and Accessibility tab, you can go directly to these resources, or feel free to scan the QR code on the slides, and that will take you direct. We've also launched site-specific EDIA resources. So as you start to plan your summer abroad journey, you'll probably have started to see that there's different cultures, norms, and political landscapes where you're at the different destinations. So understanding the cultural nuances at the destination can help you better navigate the local context. It can help you embrace the local experience and just engage with locals in a respectful and culturally sensitive manner, and also to make sure that you are comfortable and know what to expect when you're going to this destination. It might also help you and help inform you in terms of the choice of where to go. So once again, these resources are available on the website under the EDI and Accessibility tab, or at the QR code on the screen. We also work closely with U of T Accessibility Services offices to ensure that resources are made available for students who are living with disabilities or diverse learning needs, so we can make sure that summer abroad is a welcome and inclusive environment for everybody. So any students who might require accommodations or support for their summer abroad course would need to register first with the Accessibility Services office, and then an effective accommodation place can be put in place before you travel abroad. It is pretty important to start that early, just to make sure that there's a course plan, travel plan that's all put in place before plans are, so that way plans are put in place early enough before you start your travel. There's also an important note that accessibility services are not tri-campus. So each of the different campuses has a different accessibility services office. So if you are registering with accessibility services, please make sure to do so with the office at your campus. We also offer an award called the Summer Abroad Inclusion, Diversity, and Excellence Award. So, this is a relatively new award, and it awards undergraduate students who have contributed to the advancement of equity, diversity, and inclusion. We have four awards that are available for $5,000 each, and this can play a significant part in your funding. You're able to look at the biographies of previous year's recipients on our website, again under the EDI&A tab, to get a sense of the different awards that have been distributed previously. Here's the summer abroad timeline for 2026. So the website is open now with information being updated regularly. Applications open December 5th at 10 a.m. So this Friday, you'll be able to go on, create a profile on the application system, and you can also start an application and save it and come back to it. Just make sure that you submit it before the January 14th deadline at 4 p.m. Because of tech glitches and because of the video link, I would not recommend leaving it to the last day, but you still have over a month within that period that you can work on your application and return to it. And to just make sure that it's submitted before 4 p.m. on January 14th. As I said earlier, South Africa, Paris, Japan, England, and Science Abroad programs are all due before January 14th at 4 p.m. All other summer abroad programs are open until February 4th at 4 p.m. We have program information sessions for all of our programs that are running between November, December, and January. So you can feel free to go to the website under events and register for any of the program information sessions that you're interested in. Around February to maybe early March, but most likely closer to February, is when you'll get a notification of your admission. So do keep a regular eye out on your emails during that period. And then once you do get your admissions notification, you have 1 week to pay your $1,000 deposit to confirm your spot. Then your remaining fees will be due around March, but the exact date will be sent to you once you're admitted. Then around April, you will be attending, or April to early May, you'll be attending a pre-departure orientation. And then you head out to your summer abroad program. So if you're not already following us on Instagram, our handle is at U of T Abroad. This is a really great place to follow us for information and updates, but also to get stories from our summer abroad students. Students share videos, day in the life, they share photos. It really does help you get a sense of what the program's all about, and it's a great resource. There's other ways to keep updated. You can visit our website that is updated regularly as information becomes available for each program. You can attend a program information session such as this one. Those are all available to register for on our website under events. We also have a monthly e-newsletter that you can subscribe to. It's called The Summary, again, available on our website. We offer virtual appointments. So you can book a summer abroad advising appointment with an advisor to talk one-on-one about your interests, any questions you might have for a program. Again, you can book an appointment on our website. You can also contact us. So our general summer abroad mailbox is summer.abroad@utoronto.ca. And each program also has a specified email. So in the case of Paris, it's paris.abroad.wdw@utoronto.ca. So that is the end of our information session. If we have any questions, we can now open up the Q&A. But before doing so, I just want to give one more final thank you to all of our speakers today, our professors, as well as our student alumni. And hopefully everyone's really excited about the 2026 program.